The Heathrow Express Business First Class is the most expensive public transport option for travel between Heathrow Airport and central London, but what do you actually get for the extra cost? Today I'm trying it out for the first time to find out what the experience is like, what's included, and who, if anyone, would find it worthwhile paying the extra compared with standard class and the other options available like the Elizabeth line. Let's get going. Now, after arriving into Heathrow on a flight, I made my way over through arrivals and over to the ticket counter. Lots of people dithering around the ticket machine, seemingly not sure what exactly to do. I could see that there was a train going in 6 minutes, so I thought there was a good chance I wasn't going to get on that one, but thankfully someone came over and sold me a ticket. This was an official ticket seller. She came over, let me pay by contactless and printed out a ticket. A whopping £32 on the day. That's £7 more than the standard class if you are buying on the day. The advantage though with standard class is you can pre-book and get it a lot cheaper than this, especially if you're booking quite far in advance and with a rail card. The cheapest standard fares are £10 and that comes down to £6.60 if you've got a rail card. So obviously a lot cheaper than the £32 business first ticket, but it does require you to be organised and know your travel plans well ahead of time. I do like how they called it business first class as well. It's like they couldn't quite make their minds up between business and first and just thought, why not both? The seat layout is in a 1-2 configuration, so a less dense seat layout than in the standard class where it's 2-2. I'm not a massive fan of when these seats face each other because it really eats into your leg room, but there were some seating options that didn't face other seats. There are a couple of generously sized luggage racks, so plenty of space for cases, and a good amount of space overhead for backpacks, or any other smaller items of luggage. And given how few passengers there'll typically be, you'll not be fighting for that space. I grabbed myself a seat and had a bit of a look around. You get a good sized table, and this can also be lifted up to make it easier to get out. And I also had a smaller side table to the left of me, although not all of the seats had this. And over to my right there was a power outlet as well as USB ports. This is something that differentiates business first. Every seat has this, whereas just most of the seats in standard class do. Well, I'm not sure the guarantee of power for 15 minutes is enough of a selling point. It was pretty quiet in the cabin, just one of the passengers so far, and I noticed a sign saying that the Wi-Fi was available, which I'll try out shortly. But let's take a look at the seat itself, and it's really nothing special. The headrest isn't particularly comfortable and it's not adjustable at all, and the seat itself is incredibly firm. I mean, granted, you're not going to be sat in it for long, so it doesn't need to be super plush. But you can tell from the sound it makes when I'm tapping it how hard it is, and the armrest isn't particularly comfortable either. Fairly narrow and solid. I will show you what the standard seating's like in a bit, but I was really expecting a much bigger step up than this was. But anyway, we were soon on our way. I was departing from Heathrow Terminal 5, so it would mean there would be one stop at Terminal 3, before heading directly from there to London Paddington. Total journey time for me today clocked in at 19 minutes, which is not bad at all. After that initial stop, I decided to get myself connected to the Wi-Fi so I could watch something on my tablet. It was really quick and easy to get connected, and the Wi-Fi worked well, and I had no issues at all streaming content. I did have a slight issue plugging in my tablet. My Outlook couldn't quite fit in there, so I did just have to go with the USB charger, but that's more of an issue with my charger than it is the actual seat. Also under the seat is a lever for recline. It's one of those fixed shell ones where you kind of scoot yourself forward to give it a slight recline, and unfortunately the recline was very slight, to the point where I barely even noticed it, to be honest. But as we continue on with this journey, let's talk about who business first class is really for, and how it actually compares to standard class and other options like the Elizabeth line. So first off, there are a number of people who can actually get a complimentary upgrade from standard to business first based on airline status. So if, for example, you have BA Gold Guest List status, Star Alliance Gold status, JetBlue Mint and Mosaic, SAS Eurobonus Diamond and Gold status, then you can just buy a standard class ticket but then go sit in business first and just show anyone checking tickets that you do have that status level. Business first class could also be of use of people wanting fast track security at Heathrow, as that is included with the ticket. Obviously wasn't much use to me today on my way away from Heathrow, but when completing the journey in the other direction, this is one of the perks. If you don't already get fast track security at Heathrow through either airline status or through the class of ticket that you've got, you can pay for fast track security for £12.50 at Heathrow, so getting this included with the ticket is a decent benefit. Although it's not one that I personally value at all, I do usually get fast track security at Heathrow through my status with BA, and I've never found it to make too much of a difference. When the airport's busy, fast track's always busy as well, and it doesn't really seem like I'm ever saving a huge amount of time compared with just the normal queues. I was going into this thinking that business first would be a more comfortable, more spacious option, so a good choice of business travellers who, especially those who can expense a ticket, but for anyone really who wants to make use of the time to do a bit of work, you can get the decent table. But given how short the journey is, it's not really that worthwhile. And I really didn't find the seat that much more comfortable. I think the seats on standard class are perfectly fine. Yeah, you don't get as big a tray table, it's a relatively small one, but you still get a good amount of space, it's still a comfortable enough seat. And because so many people would tend to opt for the Elizabeth line these days rather than the Heathrow Express, the standard class carriages are pretty quiet anyway, so if you're wanting to pay for a quieter space or having more room, or just wanting to guarantee more space for your bags, you really don't have to worry about that. The standard class will have plenty of space as it is. And I think especially when you factor in the cheap tickets that you can get when pre-booking the Heathrow Express, if you are going to Central London, specifically the Paddington area, it does make sense to just pre-book that ticket ahead of time, because it will work out, especially if you have a rail card, to be slightly cheaper than doing the Elizabeth line even. But I do think for most the Elizabeth line will likely be the top option. Whilst the tube remains the cheapest option overall, and the Heathrow Express can be the fastest, and it can also be cheap when you're pre-booking, the Elizabeth line is easily going to be the most convenient option for most. There's no need to pre-book, and given the number of stops that it has, that you can get to many more places within London really conveniently. I think particularly for those who live in London or who aren't staying near Paddington, even though the Elizabeth line itself is slightly slower than the Heathrow Express, there's a good chance you'll be able to get to your final destination quicker, either because there'll be a direct stop for you, or through easier access to connecting lines. And on the subject of connecting lines, it is worth noting as well that the Elizabeth line is included in the Transport for London daily cap, so if you are connecting onto other transports and travelling around London quite a bit during the day, going with the Elizabeth line again is likely to work out cheaper overall. It's just worth keeping in mind though that it will be a busier service, there'll be a bit less space for your luggage, but still a hell of a lot more spacious than going on the tube. When I arrived into Paddington Station, I almost made a pretty big mistake. I had actually left the ticket on my table and I was just going to leave it there for some reason. And then just as I was walking off, I realised I'd left it, turned around and grabbed it thinking I'd better find a bin for it. That would have been quite a bad move, as you do need those tickets to get through the gates at the station, so do make sure that you hang on to that. But do let me know if you regularly travel to or from Heathrow, or even if just do occasionally, what's your preferred method of travel? Do you tend to go Heathrow Express or Elizabeth line or something else? And if you do get the Heathrow Express, have you ever found it worthwhile to get the business first? And if so, I'll be really interested to see if it's for any reason other than that you get it through airline status or that the work expenses it. Because given how little the upgrade actually is in terms of quality, I'd be quite surprised if there are many people willing to pay that upgrade regularly. Hope you found this video useful for planning your own travel. If you're a fan of train content, there'll be a playlist up on the screen there where you can catch some more videos from me, as well as a video that YouTube thinks you should watch next. And make sure you subscribe for more train videos coming soon, including some Japan bullet trains.